Hi, I'm Doug Llewellyn, and welcome to the Flat Rock Playhouse here in Flat Rock, North Carolina. It's quiet in the theater right now, but when the 23-member cast of the show that's playing here right now returns, this stage becomes the scene of one of the most magical presentations ever presented in the 60-year history of this historic theater. And get this, there is no dialogue, there's no singing, but there's lots of music, and it's all sheer magic. The cast, by the way, includes 10 extraordinary dancers who have come from some of the biggest shows on Broadway in New York, and 26 amazingly talented children from the Flat Rock Playhouse Youth Theater. Together, they perform one of the most unique presentations of The Nutcracker that has ever been staged anywhere. And the setting for the story is right here in Western North Carolina. In fact, when the lights all come up on this stage, you might think you're on Main Street in Hendersonville. And what makes it all so special is that this entire production has been conceived, written, and choreographed by a young man who practically grew up on this stage and in the rehearsal hall next door from the time he was 6 years of age to 16, when he left to go to Broadway and appear in The Music Man for 2 years. His name is Chase Brock, and in the 15 years since he left, he has reached the pinnacle of success on Broadway as the new choreographer of the biggest production ever mounted on the Great White Way, Spider-Man: Turn Off the Dark. What you are about to see is the amazing account of what is really a love story for his hometown. This is the making of Chase Brock's The Nutcracker. So how did all of this happen? How did Chase Brock, this very successful Broadway choreographer, decide to come home to create something new and unique that has never been seen here before? And by the way, who really is Chase Brock? What's his story? To find out, the two of us went next door to the rehearsal hall where he has spent so many hours during his life, and he began to tell me.
I started studying here when I was 6 years old. The late, great Wendy Wilkins was my first children's theater teacher. Betsy Basson was my, longtime theater teacher, and really the person who's responsible for my interest in directing, frankly. And in this very room, I had dance classes and acting classes and scene study classes and voice lessons, and I did performances on that stage right there. So it's an amazing thing, actually. I left, almost 15 years ago, and I've been working in the professional world since.
Chase is remembered by many people here in the Playhouse, including George Wilkins, the longtime musical director of the Flat Rock Playhouse. He's been here since 1980.
I remember him, he was about 14 years old. I was working at the Playhouse, and my sister was teaching him then. And she told me, I want you to take a look at this kid. And all I could see was a blur because he was always moving so fast. And as soon as he would leave the Playhouse, he would come back with his 6-member dance company, and they would rehearse for 2 or 3 hours. And I always thought, I never had that kind of energy. My sister was amazed by him too. He's probably one of the most talented kids I've ever seen at the Playhouse. There's no probably about that. He is the most talented kid I've ever seen at the Playhouse.
So I had been in a production of The Music Man at Tryon Little Theater, which is a wonderful community theater down the mountain. And a few months after that, I heard about an audition for a Broadway revival of The Music Man that Susan Stroman was directing and choreographing. And actually one of the first national tours I saw come through this area was her production of Crazy for You. So I was very excited about the idea of her doing The Music Man, and with all the innocence of youth, I thought, I just did the show, I know the show, I'm ready to go into the Broadway production.
How old are you?
At the time I was 15. And so I said to my parents, if you buy me a plane ticket to go to New York to this open call, I'll get the job. Like, I promise you, if you'll just put up the money, I will get the job. And they sort of said, we will buy the plane ticket, but you gotta get the job. And I said, it's in the bag. So I went to New York for a weekend and stayed with some friends I had been in a summer program with on Long Island. And the day of the audition, the morning of the audition, I arrived and I took a cab to the old New Dance Group studio on 47th Street and went right to the door where the address was, and concluded that there was a line of children all the way around the block into Times Square. And so I walked my way to the end of the line and got in the line. And actually, just a few minutes later, a monitor came out and said they were not going to see any more kids because there'd been 600 or something like that. And that was as many as they could see that day. So I almost missed the cutoff. To make a long story short, it was a long day of auditioning, and then I flew back for a couple more callbacks. But ultimately, they hired 3 of us, and I did get the job. So I moved to New York a couple months later, and that's how it all started.
Chase remained in the revival of the Music Man for a full 2 years. After that, he began choreographing a lot of projects throughout the New York area, and he formed his own dance company, the Chase Brock Experience. In addition, he choreographed the biggest worldwide selling dance video game called Dance on Broadway, as well as being tapped to re-choreograph the biggest, most lavish production ever mounted on Broadway, Spider-Man: Turn Off the Dark. Some amazing accomplishments for a young man who is still in his 20s. As for how he came here to do this show, it all began with an email from the producing artistic director of the Playhouse, Vincent Marini.
I was looking for a Christmas show that we could do either every year or every other year that would be unique to Flat Rock Playhouse. In fact, something that was unique to Western North Carolina. And in thinking about what we might be able to do, it occurred to me that it made sense if we were going to do something that was indigenous to this area to have it be created by someone that grew up here. And it occurred to me, who would be the ideal, dream candidate to do that job? And when I saw what Chase Brock had done with Spider-Man, someone who had come through the Flat Rock Playhouse program, that was a part of our youth theater program for so many years, and then went on to become a famous Broadway choreographer, I decided, you know what, let's go to Chase and see if he's interested in doing a brand new Nutcracker.
I got the invitation to come down, and I think Vince's exact email to me said, how about, it was one line, it said, how about you come down and reinvent the Nutcracker? And I thought that was such a delicious idea, and I immediately started going, well, what does that mean? Do I go back to Hoffman? Do we do, a musical version of the Nutcracker? Do we do, what is it? And given that I'm passionate about dance theater and the power of dance as theater, I immediately thought, very, very interesting challenge would be to do a wordless version so that it's really the equivalent of a ballet, but it is also the equivalent of a theater piece in that it's totally narrative with characters, with a very clear story. So once I had sort of decided, okay, it's going to be a piece of dance theater, then the challenge was, how do we reinvent it and why? What is compelling about doing the Nutcracker? There are so many productions and different versions. So then I thought, well, a version I have never seen is the Flat Rock Playhouse version, the Appalachian version, the Western North Carolina version. So the fascinating part here is doing something wordless for an audience that for 60 years has gotten their information from language, songs. Of course they do big musicals here at Flat Rock Playhouse, but they have never done in the 60 years an entirely wordless piece of theater. And so I think that's very exciting. The casting process has been about 9 months, so it's been a really thrilling 9 months. And 4 of the members of the cast are from my dance company, and they're people I had worked with in that vein, but all of whom are also very strong actors, and I knew would be very, very game for this kind of dance storytelling, which was so crucial. Because they couldn't just be great dancers, they had to also be really talented actors. They've been in The Lion King, they've been in Spider-Man, they've been in Mary Poppins, they've been in West Side Story, they've been in The Heights. I mean, it is a really amazing, amazing group of world-class performers, and I really, really think we've struck the right balance of acting dancers. And in fact, Marie's parents, and I think this is particularly delightful, are played by 2 of my former classmates from when I was right here at the youth theater. And those 2 are excellent dancers and excellent actors. And I think the blend of those 12 people and their different perspectives is really exciting. The final element of which, of course, is the 23 youth theater students who we are using, who are absolutely charming and vivid, so talented, so independent, so intelligent, so precocious. We really, there's an embarrassment of riches on the stage. Or a fake reading, or whatever version of a reading, a good one, great. So then you just have a little quick kiss, and then with the children as well. It's getting so big, exactly. Great, and then you're on your way. Great, and then perhaps you head that way. Great.
And maybe at that moment is when your group comes in, Willis. Yeah. Yeah, I did. Yeah. I wonder if they come back into that, or if that would have happened. We're gonna have to kind of.
To handle the music, a critical element of this production, Chase tapped one of the most illustrious musical directors and conductors on Broadway, Rob Berman, a recent Emmy winner for his work on television's The Kennedy Center Honors.
He had such an interesting idea, I think, about what to do to make a local version that's local to Flat Rock, local to his hometown theater, a very unique production. And at first I said to him, well, you know, why don't you just take one of the recordings of the big orchestral Nutcrackers and just play the recording, choreograph it too. And he said, absolutely not. And he was dead right. I mean, the whole point of this production is that we're creating something unique to this theater, to this town, and it's all a matter of scale. So he doesn't have a huge corps de ballet. He's got 10 dancers, 2 actors, all the kids from the youth theater. So we wanted the music to sound the same scale as what the production was going to look like and feel like. So what I did was basically reconceived the whole score for, I think, 10 or 11 maybe musicians. When I listen to it now, you know, it's exactly what we had in mind. I mean, the spirit of it is exactly what we wanted, exactly what we intended.
Next, you'll meet the Tony Award-winning costume designer whose extraordinary talents are helping to bring this version of the Nutcracker to life. The process of writing the script for this production began 14 months ago and was handled completely by Chase Brock himself, hence the title, Chase Brock's The Nutcracker.
At some point I thought, you know, the snow scene is so famous and the waltz of the snowflakes and the snow pas de deux, and I thought, well, I want to do a version of that, but it has to be our version. And then I thought, well, one of the things I hit on very early was maybe to raise the stakes, our Marie would not have a brother. She would be an only child. And so in a way she would be a child in this completely adult world, and I thought that was interesting. And so then as I was thinking about snow and how that would work, I kept just even the word snow. I finally thought maybe she needs like a pet named Snow. And then at some point I sort of hit on the idea of a mouse, like a friendly mouse. I don't know if people really have mice as pets, but she does. And I really liked the idea right away that the actor would be able to manipulate a hand puppet. So this would be how Marie's parents and people in the world would see Snow, but then the actor could get rid of the glove, pull up a hoodie, and become Snow, the same character, but now expressed by a dancer.
I'm playing Snow, who is a mouse, and he's Marie's best friend. It's her pet mouse. And ultimately, I'm looking out for her best interest. You know, she's my buddy, she's my pal. I also have, my whole costume consists of a hoodie, and it's got these mouse ears and whiskers and the eyes, and when the hoodie goes on, I come to life. And that's me, and I become this dancer. And then when I take the hoodie off and I pop this puppet on my hand, then it's the mouse on my hand, and he's a little bit more able to kind of do all these kinds of things. And it kind of plays between who sees me as a mouse and Marie sees me as her best friend, who's this real person. So it's interesting. It's different.
To design the costumes for this unique version of the Nutcracker, Chase turned to an old friend of his who is a legend in the world of Broadway costume design, Ann Hould Ward, who has created the costumes for more than 18 Broadway shows, as well as the Metropolitan Opera and the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. She won a Tony for her extraordinary costume designs for Broadway's Beauty and the Beast.
The character Snow is interesting because I think the character Snow is kind of my friend Chase. The kind of amazing way Chase puts his clothing together and the wonderful colors he comes up with and the concepts are part of how I came about envisioning who Snow was as a contemporary young person. But then he also had to be a mouse. And Chase had the idea that he was he could be on the hand of the dancer. Well, I've designed so many animals in my time, from the wolf in the original Into the Woods through the Beast in Beauty and the Beast. I think that the idea, the development of how I turn a person into an animal is just kind of comes as second nature to me now. And I think Chase has done a wonderful job of developing these characters in such a way that they are, yes, it takes place in Hendersonville, North Carolina, but do I think that a little girl in Dutton, Montana would still love the story and be able to see herself as Marie? Absolutely. Or a little girl in New York City? Absolutely. The fitting is the development process between the designer from the drawing and what the designers developed in the drawing and what the shop has been working on building, and the opportunity to share that with the dancer to make sure they're able to do their work thoroughly in it, to make sure proportionally that you have developed the right proportions for that particular person so that it's aesthetically beautiful from stage, and to really give them a bit of what you did in the roadmap of the drawing, so that they are able to go back into the rehearsal room and continue to develop knowing what those things are. It is a pretty thorough process if it's done properly, yes. You need to know that they have full extension and full mobility. So you're really asking them to go through what they're doing in their role. You're asking them to move around, make sure if they have any needs, any questions for you about movement, that you solve them at that point in time.
The focal point of this show is the lead character, Marie, who is played by Macy Sullivan. She is a recent graduate of the prestigious Juilliard School in New York. She is very familiar with The Nutcracker.
In Oregon, I did 2 versions of The Nutcracker. It was probably at least 30 performances every year, and I did it for like 6-7 years. And I had several roles that I went through over the course of those years. I actually did the Marie role in George Balanchine's Nutcracker. And I was young, so my approach was very different. I was just learning about how to act on stage. And what I love about this Nutcracker is the progression in the character. She's not the same girl that she was in the beginning. Nothing against George Balanchine's Nutcracker, but I'm very relieved that I get to be up and down and interacting and part of the production.
The other key element of the show is scenic design, which of course includes the sets and the environment of the stage. It was all designed by Dennis Malden.
If you're doing a production of the Nutcracker in its traditional way, no matter what you're doing that might look different, it's still based kind of on a story and a presentational form that's been around for a long time. And this one is just totally different. There might be one person who's on point, and the rest of the people are dancing in bare feet or heels or tap shoes or all sorts of different styles of dance. Sneakers. There's even a sort of hip hop kind of dancer who's in it, hip hop style tied into the ballet. So the characters are very real, and the situations in which they find themselves have a psychological reality, and I found it important to try to create a space that matched the story that Chase was trying to develop and to communicate. This is the top of the false proscenium, which of course is the opening that you look at the play through in the proscenium. And I have done like abstractions of some of the buildings that are not only on Main Street, but just in Hendersonville in general, because I wanted to pay an homage to this town, which is where Chase is from and where I've lived for so many years. So near the end of the show, her parents do give her tickets to go to the classical Nutcracker ballet, and we do like a miniature version of it, and there's a proscenium that's cut out and brought in that has footlights and carving on it, and part of the carving are cherubs holding up candelabra. And so I had to draw them in detail like this, and then we transfer them to foam and carve them, and then we'll, treat them and paint them and apply them to the false proscenium.
Now that this new version of the Nutcracker is finished, what about the possibility of it traveling to other areas of the country?
I don't know, and actually I feel totally totally interested in just making the best possible production we can for right here. I feel very, very excited about fashioning something that's unique to the region, created by people from the area, working in collaboration with people I've brought from New York. And I really just think if we succeed, it will be that we have created a Nutcracker that is ours and that belongs to this community, and in my wildest dreams would come back year after year. So that would be a real thrill for me. I'm not so interested in this going somewhere else. I really think this is for right here.
Main Street is really the setting, isn't it?
Yes.
Are you trying to depict specific places on Main Street in the show?
We used specific places here for research. So it's like I knew that I wanted a jewelry store like Shelley's Jewelry. I knew we wanted a tea room like the Savannah Tea Room, which is now gone. I knew we wanted a place like, there's a great Narnia gallery that has wonderful fairies. I knew we wanted something like that. So we definitely have referenced a lot of local businesses, but at the same time we didn't want to do a documentary about those local places.
Right.
So we don't use the names, but the inspiration for sure. And you can even see the courthouse dome at the top of our proscenium. We have those iconic buildings that our set designer has actually placed in there. So it sort of always looms over our story.
So it's very obvious.
I hope so.
It has been said that this production is really a love letter from Chase Brock to his hometown. It's something he doesn't deny, and in fact is something he has been thrilled to do. And one other point, he thinks all of us are extremely fortunate to have a theater like the Flat Rock Playhouse right here in our midst.
Absolutely. I think the idea that this community has a professional theater of this caliber right in its backyard, is just unparalleled. And to have grown up studying in a working theater rather than in a theater classroom, that is, there's just no substitute for that. And the kids who study here come out with such a sophisticated sense of total theater and the making of theater, not just in terms of acting, but in terms of costume design and electrics crew and paint crew and front of the house staff and all stage management and the box office, which is right there. I mean, you really have a sense of all of the people that it takes to make theater and not just the part you see on the front of the stage. And I'm sure that my years of study here, from the time I was 6 to the time I was 16 when I left to be on Broadway, have influenced everything that's happened in my career since.
Some heartfelt thoughts from our own Chase Brock. And there you have it, the story of how it all came about after 14 months in the making. Chase Brock's The Nutcracker continues here at the Flat Rock Playhouse through December 22nd. For now, I'm Doug Llewellyn. Thanks so much for being with us, and have a very Merry Christmas.